Short is second by Councilman McGill. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. We are adjourned by a vote of 6-0 at also 7:14. Thank you, everyone. Our regular meeting will start in 15 minutes. The other one would stay back. Tell me when you're ready. One. Yeah, yeah. 2 seconds. I'll bang when you're ready.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Cumberland Board of License Commissioners, Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024 at 7:30 PM. First up is the acceptance of the previous minutes, acceptance of the minutes of the special meeting of August 21st, 2024. Motion
Second.
by Commissioner Shaw,
Second.
second by Commissioner Kinch. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved by 7-0. Next up is new business, a Class F1 one-day liquor license, an application for a Class F1 license from Phantom Farms 2 LLC for a private event on December 15th, 2024, from 5 PM to 8 PM. And I'll open that public meeting at 7:30 PM. Do we have anyone from Phantom Farms? Talk about that? No? So everything is in order for this. Do we have anyone that would like to speak in favor or against? Hearing none, I'll close the hearing at 7:31. And leave comments and questions to the commissioners. Commissioner McGill?
I just had one, because I know some of this is taking place outside. Is there a rain date or is it definitely that day?
There's no rain date in the
Okay.
packet. It's gonna be inside,
Okay.
actually, so yeah, no rain date.
Question for the solicitor. What's the difference between them coming to us for a one-day license for this event, where they went to the state, I believe, for that Dave Matthews Band thing, right?
Well, so-
Like, was it two different,
This is at the
styles
Fox.
or?
So
at the
for
farm.
a caterer's license, you go through the state. So I believe they had a caterer's license for that event. Class F1s are one-day licenses and they're
Yeah.
limited to 12 per year, but the actual brewery will be doing it. So,
So that's the
and
difference.
they'll be, yeah, there's a few differences. They have to buy all their alcohol from, a retailer. There's different types of rules. But I'm guessing, without knowing a lot about this one, that they probably want to serve more than just their beer, right? They probably want to bring in some wine and other,
This for a private Christmas party. So
right? But
Yeah.
I think they'll want to bring in other alcohols because otherwise they wouldn't need this.
Gotcha.
Well, this is also not at the brewery. This is at Phantom Farms.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
Correct.
thinking the brewery. So that's why, yeah.
Yeah. I just, what was the difference between the state one and that event that they had versus?
So I might be unclear. Are you talking about the brewery that just had an event on Sunday? Or
Yeah,
that was a caterer's license, so they didn't need to
That-
come to
okay.
you? Yes.
thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Kinch, second by Commissioner Shaw. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved 7-0. Next up, we have a Class F one-day liquor license, an application. An application for Class F license from Phantom Farms 2 LLC for Phantom Farms Fall Weekends every Saturday and Sunday from October 5th through November 3rd. And everything for this is in order as well. And I'll open up the public hearing at 7:33. Mr. McCarty, do you want to come up and give your name and address for the record and kind of tell about this event?
Hi, my name's Jason Macari. I live at 3100 Diamond Hill Road in Cumberland.
And so you're just looking to, for the weekend, set up a pop-up tent?
Yeah,
And
yeah, it would be just a standard 10 by 10 tent with the taps, 2 or 3 different beers on tap, and it would be at the farm. We have a a place for kids to play, hay rides, face painting, all that. And we just wanted to do a pop-up for the adults that are coming, so they could get a beer.
The ones that don't want their face painted?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone in the room that would like to speak in favor or against? Anyone on Zoom? Are we on Zoom? No,
There's no one on Zoom wishing to speak.
thank you. So hearing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:35, leaving questions and comments to the commissioners.
A motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Kinch. Second by Commissioner McGill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Motion
you.
passes 7-0. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Next up is adjournment. A motion to adjourn by Commissioner Shaw, second by Commissioner Kinch, to adjourn at 7:35 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 7-0.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting of the Cumberland Town Council for October 2nd, 2024. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:36 PM. For the record, all council members are present, and please join me for the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, and justice for all. Not the national anthem.
I thought you were gonna bust out in song.
Been a long day. Yeah, you don't want me singing, that is for sure. Too much glass in here for me to sing. Next item on our agenda is general announcements. Council, does anyone have any general announcements? Hearing none, I'm going to go to the next item on our agenda. It's a consent agenda. If there are no further questions or discussion on our consent agenda, I'll take a motion to approve. So moved by Council Bolio. Second by Mr. Mativia. All in favor to approve the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda passes by a vote of 7-0. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Would anybody in the chamber like to address the council on any topic? If you do, just please state your name and address for the record. Seeing none in the chamber, I'm going to go to our virtual platform. Madam Solicitor, anybody joining us virtually?
No, there's no one.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the next item on our agenda. It's report and communications. The first item we have is reports out of executive session votes as may be necessary. The council has no votes to report. The next item we're going on is update on the recent water main breaks by the water superintendent, and Mr. Duat is here. So Mr. Duat or Romeo, who's going to start? I'll just make a comment. Obviously, I think a lot of the council members had the same inquiries I did. I got a call by a constituent who just wanted to know, and I thought it'd be better that the experts explain it more than a layman who's just getting some information here and there. So thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to come. And if you could just give us a little update of what's happened.
Certainly. Good evening, Council President, Council members. 4 breaks on Mendon Road since July of 2003. That's basically what's causing the stir. So July 3rd, 2023, of a 16-inch line that runs from south to north had a major break. That's a PVC line put in 85, 86 or so. We believe what caused that problem was very, very, very poor installation. When the area was being excavated, I couldn't believe what was coming out of there. nothing like that should be in the vicinity of a PVC pipe. Obviously, tons of water out of there. It affected the traveling surface to a degree that, you know, was substantial. And we found out how substantial afterwards when the Department of Transportation required quite an effort to pave curb to curb. So it wound up being around a $300,000 endeavor just for the paving. The repair on the pipe, you know, was involved, but it was done. We replaced a 20-foot section of the PVC line, 16-inch diameter with ductile iron. So that should not have a problem there any longer. And just if you're wondering, that material that came out of there did not go back in. That would have just caused problems, you know, in the future, I believe. So approximately a year later, August, just this past August 25th, almost carbon copy of what happened last July. So it's approximately 300 feet north, closer to the high school now, another section of that same water main. Apparently, in my mind, the same cause as the first problem. Basically, the bedding material in there was non-existent, improper bedding, and then all the backfill that was in there was nothing like that should be around PVC pipe. We found I could see the exact point where the rupture started. There was a rock about as big as my fist right underneath that point. So you have forces from up top, continuous, which is the trafficable, you know, and the grains of sand, you know, settled slightly every, you know, over the course of time, that there's force on the pipe, the rock right below it, sooner or later, it's going to give, and it did, and sent a longitudinal crack from that point, which was about 3 feet from the end, 17 feet to the next bell. A very interesting thing about PVC pipe is it will transmit the force like that. So again, another 20-foot section removed and a 20-foot section of ductile iron put in its place. As before we had the other two in the southern part of the system, we were investigating with our consultant engineer, is there any technology available to lend more structural integrity to a PVC line? There's plenty for all other types of materials. There's structural lining that you can put in place for a transite, which we have plenty of in the system. Cast iron, ductile, but we're not too sure about anything that exists for PVC, but we're investigating. My guess is that from the point where those two breaks occurred, going north, that the bedding and the fill is probably the same as what we saw when we did the two excavations for these two breaks. So, and that's kind of troublesome to me. So it, you know, in the absence of opening the entire road and investigating and potentially taking that out and replacing it, some type of a structural liner in there, if one exists, would be the way to go. So we're looking into that. September 21st, 2024, Saturday afternoon, we are notified that there's customers on the upper portion of Angel Road and in Lupit Estates that are without water. And we had experienced that same effect with those customers with any issue that we have on Mendon Road. So even when we did a shutdown, a planned shutdown to move the water line on the new bridge over 295, we knew that that was going to happen. We purposely scheduled it from 11 PM to the next morning. So at least people without water would be sleeping when they would be without water. That went almost as planned, but it's one of those events that the residents in that area are going to say, we didn't have water. Because it took there were a few wrinkles, and we didn't actually have it on by 6 AM like we planned to. It was more 7:30, 8 AM. And I totally understand. Were I one of those residents, I would have been fit to be tied too. So we are endeavoring to inform those residents that we definitely know are going to be affected as much as possible. In an emergency situation, it's difficult because normally it's never at noon during a workday. It's at midnight in a snowstorm or some other inconvenient time. So it's very difficult to put out notices and to a large group when what you're trying to do is address the problem and return service as quickly as possible. The event September 21st was not on the 16-inch line, thank goodness. It was on the 10-inch line, which there are two in Mendon Road, the 16-inch PVC line, and then there's a 10-inch transite line. There is a point at 1715 Mendon Road, which is right in front of the Burger King restaurant, where the tie-in between the two exists. Basically a 10-inch pipe going from the 10-inch water main connecting to the main on the other side. There's all types of forces acting in that area, including the force of 150 PSI running through the pipe. There's a Y connection there, and the first event on the 21st on Saturday, the connection between the Y and the valve are tied together with ductile iron, and then that entire Y setup is connected to transite on either end. The connection between the ductile iron and the transite had an older type of coupling that the seal was no longer doing what it was supposed to. So once it's not sealed properly, water 150 pounds per square inch is going to find its way out, and out it came. So we were immediately notified, customers in Lippert Estates, no water, and so we knew immediately that it was a situation in Mendon Road. And didn't take long before we found, big puddles and water coming out through cracks in the pavement. But there's been a lot of activity in that area. I'm not going to put blame on any other utility. All I'm going to say is that, there's been plenty of new gas main installation. Gas is at 3 feet, and 2 feet below that is water main. And in that part of the system, it's the transite with sections of ductile iron, and it's connected with couplings that should be restrained and should not move. But if you're replacing gas main 2 feet above a water main and you compact, which is what you're supposed to do, you can't not do that. You're going to cause some type of vibration below, and if everything isn't anchored and restrained the way it's supposed to be, there's going to be enough movement to loosen things. And I believe that that's what happened on Saturday, September 21st. That older type of coupling, basically the seals they were no longer sealed against the pipe. Water was able to get out, excavated, we found the problem area, knew exactly what it was. Put a new section of ductile iron in there with new couplings on either end. Recharged the line, no leaks that we could see anywhere, backfilled. Everything was fine through Sunday evening. Monday morning, we get a report that there's water coming out of the exact same excavation. So back to, this is September 23rd, Monday morning, September 23rd. And for our field crew and a limited field crew from diggers, and excavated the entire area again. And we find the valve that's in that area that we found closed. And I'll explain in a moment why it was closed. The restraint ring, it's held on either side by a restraint ring and gasket. It's a mechanical joint. The left side of the valve, that restraint ring had worked its way loose. And so the gasket was no longer sealed, no longer providing a seal between the rim of the valve and the pipe. So water is able to get out. And so there's tremendous force there with that valve closed, 150 pounds coming into the valve and then shooting through the Y. We noticed that there was a thrust block poured, and there's an annular space where the thrust block ended and what we knew to be just rock that was in place there. I don't know why, but it should have been poured directly against the bedrock that was there. It's the most sturdy thing in the excavation. For whatever reason, it wasn't. So that's not a good situation. That whole thing, even though it had concrete on the back side of it, was able to move. And that's probably what caused the restraint ring to shift slightly. And then once it shifts, the gasket is no longer held in place. Water 150 pounds per square inch comes up and finds its way out. We made a decision to replace not only the mechanical rings that were holding the valve, but we put a new valve in as well. Then as we're doing that, we noticed that the Y connection that was going across the road, that was restrained with rods that, are a significant length. And one side of the restraint was no longer tied into where it's supposed to be. It's just dangling. Normal, prudent water system operations, you see something like that, there's no way you can leave it. So next thing we're doing is we're dismantling the Y and reconstructing that as well. So basically, had an 8-foot section of 10-inch pipe coming into the Y, a new valve, and then connected on either end to transite. And that entire arrangement was the repair that happened on those 2 days. All the while, with water shut off there at Mendon Road, we had approximately 20 customers between 295 and George Washington Highway out of water because we have valves shut off. And then because the upper portion of Angel Road and Lippet is fed directly from the Mendon Road area, they are also, it's as if they were directly in the break area. And the reason that was the case, and the reason that valve was closed when we found it, and the reason that we eventually left it closed was because we discovered that it was put in place that way many years ago because the normal route of water that would feed that section would come from the Palomino tank. But the pressures are so excessive that it causes disruption in the distribution system itself. And when I say disruption, I mean the pressure is so great that it causes breaks. Never mind if it were to be held in the pipes and then get to people's homes, it would cause water heaters to give way. Anything over 80 pounds, you need a pressure reducing device in your home to not, you shouldn't have anything over 80 pounds. And so we're talking substantially north of that. So a workaround, and I don't know when it was put in place, but that valve that we replaced, as soon as we said that that shouldn't be closed, we're going to leave it open. We're recharging everything and we have no pressure in Lippert Estates. So, you know, we're wondering, let's close the valve. We close the valve and sure enough, that whole area begins to get pressurized. So it's meant to be, it was meant to always be closed as a workaround until we can figure out how to get water from Palomino into that area the way it's supposed to. And it would require a significant effort in terms of pressure. We'd have to actually put in pressure reduction at specific points in order to keep the system intact and then to protect homeowners. You could take a stance that every homeowner that receives water over 80 needs to put in a pressure reducing valve. You know, if they've never had to do that before, I think it's a little bit unfair asking that. I've had one ever since I bought my home. I've never had to do anything to it, thank goodness. And, you know, I have 135 in the street and it reduces it to 70. And, you know, it's wonderful. And I truly would want that for any resident in Cumberland as well. So that's the whole story. In our estimation, you know, we can't say that we'll never have another problem on Minden Road. We probably will, but it's something that is expected in any water system that's made up like Cumberland, 140 miles of pipe. And things that are buried in the ground never get younger. They always get older. So that's where we find ourselves. We're working with our consulting engineer. We have a hydraulic model that we can run scenarios on to see if we might be able to route water from Palomino the way it should be into those areas and where those high pressures would come about and what we could do to alleviate that and feed that part of the system the way it's supposed to. It will take a little time. We're going to keep at it until we find a way to alleviate that type of thing for those residents.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add, Director?
Just a couple of words. I've spoken at length with Mr. Mendez, and I concur fully with his analysis. The biggest thing, the biggest takeaway from this is the importance of keeping up with infrastructure. Roads, drain pipes, water mains, sewer pipes, you know, all of it needs attention. It will fail at some point. And the couple of things that I'm learning from what we're, the events that have occurred recently is that when I go to the site, I'm not just looking for, are we going to repair at what time and so forth. I look for things like Mr. Mendez mentioned, what is surrounding the pipe. That's called a bedding material, and depending on the pipe and so forth, it requires different type of beddings, and it has to be firm in order to keep the pipe intact. There is no reason right now to have the PVC pipe fail. It's one of our newest types of pipes in our system. The transite pipe that he talks, it's a cementous type of pipe. Those could be decades and decades old. There's cast iron pipes that are very, very old. Those are the ones that should be failing and not the PVC pipes. So it's troubling to have that. We should be concentrating on the older section. So The other piece that I'm concerned about is that why was this bedding material put in the way it was? Who was sleeping at the wheel there? So having important staff to inspect the work is of the essence. It's the kind of thing that, you know, it's disruptive to the individual homes, it's disruptive to traffic, it's very costly, and we're taking resources and focusing somewhere else that we shouldn't be. So having, you know, those extra few dollars that you're paying to have somebody witness a construction job, it may seem overwhelming at the beginning, but it pays dividends over the course of time. We should not be on Mendon Road repairing the PVC pipe. We should be going down the street on Mendon Road and replacing the old pipes. So it's important to have good staff and ample staff to continue in the operations of our system. And it's important that we have a good plan, which we do. We have an infrastructure plan that we have to submit every 5 years to the Department of Health. And we've looked at the plan, and Mr. Mendez and I have kind of dissected it a little bit and try to make it more practical for what we're going to do and how it works with other utilities. So we have neighborhoods like the Ashton Mill and the Berkeley Village area that have pipes that are well over 100 years old. And when we replace the sewer main, you know, the water main is going to be right there. It's going to break. So why wouldn't we replace everything at once? It's well past its lifetime, many times over. And so I am putting together capital plans that will not only work with the water department's needs, but how can we incorporate it to get a bigger bang for the buck in with other utilities such as sewer or perhaps stormwater. And these are the plans we're putting together, and we're going to try to adhere as best as we can, but it will take an effort. Rates will probably have to increase over time, but I can't stress the facts, how important, you know, we hate to get those bills. Nobody wants to pay those monthly, quarterly bills, whatever we receive. But on those bills, you know, you're getting guaranteed of ample water, you're getting good quality water. And to do that, it's not cheap. It takes an effort. So it's important that we keep up with the budgeting needs of the department and whatever level we have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Duarte or Mr. Mendez? Counselor Shaw.
Thank you. Mr. Duarte, just a general question. So we know that there's a good chance the bedding is a problem. We know that the bedding was a problem, right?
At least in that area.
In
yes.
that area. So is there a way like using technology to know like the machines that would go over ground that could show empty space, if you will, like a graveyard or whatever like that, like grave
Yeah.
sites in the ground. Is there a machine that would be able to pick up the fact that that particular bedding exists in certain parts of the road, or that does not exist?
There may be. I don't know if it could get that specific, that small. Usually when you have density machines, they can. It would be very costly. However, you know, if this is going to continue to happen, you know.
Just some food for thought. Just I didn't know
yeah.
if that did exist.
I mean, this is why we're bringing in a consultant.
Right.
Two reasons we're bringing them in. One, we have to look at the system hydraulically, how it's behaving. So Mr. Mendez mentioned that, you know, there was a valve shut off. Well, that makes a big deal. We didn't know about it. You know, the present staff that we have didn't know that. We need to run these models every so often. And what the models do is you run various scenarios, at peak hours and with maybe a fire running here, or maybe we shut a valve there. And you just run a bunch of scenarios and look at the output. And that's what we're going to look for to see if it makes sense. Where do we have questionable things? And so that's one area we want to look at. So we can keep a water main breaks, but the whole water system is not shut down. Right? We want to minimize the amount of people that are affected by the water main break. And then the other piece is, you know, what experts are out there that can offer advice for such as repairing a PVC pipe? Is there something we can line it? Is there, you know, like Pawtucket Water Supply spend countless effort, time and money on relining all our mains up and down our streets, but those are different type of pipes. PVC, we really, you know, I'm not sure what's out there right now because it's such a new technology, such a new piping that, you know, we're focusing on old sections and how do we line those pipes. So That's where we're gonna bring them in and ask for some advice, and maybe they can say, oh yeah, we have this machine that
Right.
does
And,
exactly what you're looking for.
and because there's no easy way to identify that, are we, I'm sure we are, communicating with any other construction that's happening, whether it be around the bridges, whether it be, I mean, is this something that we should be looking out for and prepared for because of the construction on Mendon Road, that potentially could affect it again? Whether it be Rhode Island Energy digging, are they aware now that maybe you just gotta be prepared? Like, I don't know. Do you even communicate that? Like, I don't
Well,
know.
I mean-
They gotta do what they gotta do.
Right.
They can't help what's underneath what they're doing.
Right.
I don't know what you do, but,
The-
because I was talking with people at the fields this past week that live in the off of Angel Road and stuff, how frustrated they were, and they're coming to me and they don't know where to vent their frustration to, and I'm just trying to be more proactive in a situation where you probably can't be, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, we certainly, part of the program, when you excavate is you have to have a dig safe, call. We're not part of it, but everybody notifies us because they know there's water around. So, having somebody present when they're working in crucial areas. So if we know there's a crucial area such as intersections where there's many valves and fittings, it may be prudent to have somebody there just to, but like Mr. Mendez said, the gas main is usually 2.5 feet higher than our water main. In theory, there should be no effect. Why it's happening is probably poor construction or materials used. We were on Shirley Drive this a few weeks ago asphalting. The vibratory roller just compacting the top 2 inches of asphalt broke a surface. That's 4.5 feet deep. Again, probably poor materials, poor installation. It's going to happen. I mean, I've been doing this long enough that it's going to happen. It's hard to tell. The key is knowing if you have critical areas that we have people ready to witness the construction and be ready if something happens in a moment's notice and not have to wait hours later when the water's finally getting to the surface. So things of that sort we can do. And then, of course, be vigilant on all our construction sites. So when Mr. Mendez's crews inspect all the new services, they're really paying attention. We don't want future generations to go through the same thing.
Right, and just for the record, like, you guys have been doing a great job keeping up with all the water main breaks, you know, and stuff's gonna happen, you know, we have a fire at a house, you shut off a hydrant too hard, little water main break down the street. I mean, that's part of living in an older town like we are. We're not a new town by any means, but we're trying to get there. So I appreciate your effort. Thank you.
Any other questions for the director? Counselor Bolio?
Thanks. Do we know how far this PVC infrastructure on Mendon Road extends?
Yes. It's from the point that we had the 2 breaks, it will go up to Nate Whipple. And is transmitting water into the tanks in that part of the system as well.
Is some of what we expect, is it Woodward and Curran, the vendor who's helping us?
Yes.
Are we expecting they'll give us more analysis of this stretch of pipe? As
So-
part of, it sounds like you've got a big scope of activities you want them to consider. Is this part of that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then as it relates to the work that was being done by other agencies, I think it was gas, related to the area around Mendon Road, you know, it seems like we're not placing blame, but at the same, and it, obviously, we know it appears that the materials are of poor condition, but do we re-engage with the gas company to say, okay, well, we understand this, maybe this system is fragile, there's probably a better word, so it's just my word, and we need to work more carefully or hand in hand to make certain that there's not an impact?
That's actually a very good question. One of the things that happens routinely is when the Department of Transportation is doing any type of road resurfacing, rehabilitation, they send a set of plans and specifications to the local water supplier, and that's the purpose. hey, we have, it's not ductile iron in this section that you're going to have a vibratory roller on. It's transite. And the next sentence says you need to be very cautious because it's prone to breaking.
Right.
And they pay attention. And so they'll find, instead of full depth restoration, they might just do a mill and overlay type of thing, and that protects the water main. I've seen them do that routinely. I think that type of thing needs to happen with, utilities in general. So when First Energy, National Grid, I forget who they are now, when they're putting in that new high pressure water main, they should have sent something to the water department saying, hey, we're gonna put in high pressure water main.
So it sounds like that didn't happen. Is that something we can communicate? The gas main?
So within, they didn't contact us directly. They probably worked with the Department of Transportation. Because what they're trying to do is in advance of the paving that's going to
Yep.
occur there, they want to replace their infrastructure.
Yeah, I think the point, maybe you're trying to make, and I'm trying to make sure you're making the point, is that if our system is stressed, I think we need to ensure that the DOT is fully aware of that and takes the proper caution to ensure we aren't doing further damage to the system that seems to be
I will
under
say that
duress.
the Department of Transportation in particular is very, very careful. When they do their plan preparation, they address everything in those plans, and they send a full set to the water department, the Cumberland Water Department, so.
In all due respect to the Rhode Island Energy, they did notify us. We've been well aware of their construction activities. DOT, as Mr. Mendez had indicated, also notifies us. Their practices for what they do is not unusual. It's what's applied across the country. It's probably because of the activities they're doing, but the break is probably not just because of that. We have old, fragile structures, and
Yep.
it's a balance. It's a balance between the utilities. Having us present when the activities are going on at those sensitive areas is crucial. But we can't necessarily dictate 100% what they're gonna do. It's not big, huge pipes they have, and the compaction is not overwhelming, and our pipes are relatively deep. We've got problems. We've got some old pipes that need attention, and they will break here and there. Today, that particular recent one was because of the gas services. The paving program, that's a totally different company, totally different part of the town. It's our job to be around when they're doing their work, to be vigilant.
And we have the plans for Mendon Road, like
Yeah.
whatever the water plans.
They did.
The ones when we initially installed the water mains, the PVC mains. Do we have that on?
Well,
It's a long time ago, I know
I can't
that.
tell you that we have the best plans.
Yeah.
We have quite a bit of our system.
Yep.
But I don't think we have 100% exactly everything that we should have.
And so it sounds like we have very old infrastructure that has definitely exceeded end of life. And then it sounds like we have infrastructure that is problematic for the reasons you've mentioned tonight. Is that something Woodward and Curran, with your collaborative efforts, will help us to prioritize? Because we certainly know there are issues in certain areas. You mentioned a few of them tonight. But are there other urgencies that you think they'll help us to evaluate?
They generate a master list of each and every water line that currently exists. And by age, by material that it's constructed of, and so we have a list that goes from 1 to 1,000, basically telling us, here's a 1,000-foot section of main, that's the oldest in your system.
Yep.
And so that's the first one you should be looking at when you replace that one.
and then number two, number three, yeah.
So if we put that to the test today, would the Mendon Road one pop up as a priority for repair?
So what we're saying, the upper part of Minute Road should not. That's newer installation. The lower part, yes, that you would see, that's those sections up at the top of the list.
However, there's also levels of efficiencies. You know, we have to be prudent with our resources that we receive from our residents. And I look at the system not just from age, but also how do we get the biggest bang for the buck, right? So if I was to tell you that the two villages, Ashton and Berkeley, are of the greater need because of the sewer line, that kind of well, it would be the older system anyway, but it would kind of shift ID, you know, where we're going to put the resources. Another areas up in the New Clark area and Forestdale area, you know, they're in need of having the roads repaved. We're getting constant complaints about the road conditions. Well, we'd hate to go pave those roads as badly as it needs it because our water mains are in tough shape. So we would pave the roads, and much of the condition of the road is resulting from the repairs we've had to do over the years. So we know there's some old lines that may not be the oldest, the next one's in line, but we need to push them up. Because in fixing those mains also benefits the roads and probably other infrastructure that's in the roads. Likewise with Ashland. So we have the report from the Woodward and Curran, our infrastructure plan that has life cycle annotations to it, but we have to readjust things to make the biggest, you know, the most efficient use of our resources. So we have such a plan that we're following, and I'm trying to put a budget together for, you know, an 8-year budget of how to get the proper rates in there to accommodate the new debt that will come in and keep up with, you know, our cash capital that we also need to replace. So it's a balancing act we're constantly having to do.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I just got one, the directors, for when you in the ground, what did the rest of it, the surrounding pipe look like? I mean, was the rest of it in good shape?
Yeah, by and large, yes, there was nothing we could see. It was very unusual crack because usually it's not like a very symmetrical crack. This last 16-inch pipe that cracked, it was like a nice solid line right down the seam. You know, there's still some thought, maybe it's a manufacturing issue that we'll have to
Well,
consider.
that's, I think I was going. Is there any recourse for that? If you look at that, but I don't know how old that pipe was.
It's probably approaching the 40-year.
Oh, okay. So obviously that would not be a warranty.
I doubt we would have, warranty's gone.
The
That's
one-
probably, yeah.
Going back a year ago, when you found the rock underneath the pipe, which caused the vibration, which caused that to bang, was that something that was done, as you said, 40 years ago, around 1986? So that's nothing that we can hold anybody accountable. I was just thinking maybe there was a break a year ago and we were in, they fixed it then. And then there was something that we could recover for the shoddy, as you said, whoever did it 40 years ago wasn't too careful. Right, that's all I had. So none of these obviously are reimbursable.
I don't think we'll be able to chase
Okay.
that many years ago. Yeah.
Any other questions for the directors? Directors, thank you so much for, on short notice, coming down and answering those questions for us. Okay, getting back to our agenda, the next item on the agenda is item C. We're going to the annual report of financial administrative updates as per section 306H of the charter, administrative updates, financial updates. Mayor, are you going to handle this or is the director?
No, I think I will, Mr. President.
Okay.
Members of the council. So as the president just stated, this is required under section 306H of the town charter. And so you've seen this every year. You know, we can, if you have any specific questions, we can answer them. I think the highlights here, other than, I think it is in here that, that budget award that we had received the last 2 years, we have received it again. So that's a testament to our finance department and also, Ms. King's, work on the, document. And then, there was a recent, study done by, or review by the Auditor General, showed that Cumberland was one of only 4 communities that, didn't have any negative trends. So we're proud of that accomplishment. I would say that as you look through it, I mean, the general fund and the sewer fund, pretty much, right on the budget line. Water department a little short. And as I have stated in the past, this is going to get more difficult, this year. So FY '24, it's unaudited, but it will, close with use of some, fund balances that in the past have been budgeted, but not, had to be, actually used. So, and then we know that, with the, school construction, and the housing aid that, in conjunction with that, and how that's going to be a catch-up payment next year. Just, we're happy with the results, but we do have that disclaimer that, it's going to get a little bit more difficult, in, 25, 26, and 27. So can answer any questions if you have any on the document.
Councilors, any questions at all for the mayor on this item? None, Mayor, so good, and congratulations on the award and so forth for the budget, so congratulations to you and your staff.
Thank you.
Okay, just bear with me, we're gonna go down to the next item, is licenses. We have an entertainment license. We have an application for a special event license from the Cumberland Police Department for a truck or treat at Garvin Elementary School on October 6, 2024, from 10 to 2. There is a rain date of October 27th, 2024. If we do approve, council, it's pending the promoter's permit. Is anybody here from the police department on this? I think we know what this is from last year. They just, children come and get candy and so forth, dressed up, and they go over behind Garvin's school. So if there's any questions, I can't. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's obviously, that's an error. Do we have to correct that? I saw that. It's 20, it's the, yeah, so I think the best, thank you for that, council, because I did see the 2004, but I figured it was just a miss on that. But we'll take I'll take a motion on that, on the agenda on item A on the special events to change the date to October 26th, 2024, instead of October 6th, 2004. Do I have a motion to accept? Motion by Councilor Short, and a second. All who approve, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the amendment passes by a vote of 7-0. We are now dealing with the new dates of October 26, 2024, and October 27th, 2024.
President. So within the application itself, it does say October 6th, not 26th. So I know we just changed it to 26 with the rain date of 27th, but the application states the 6th. It was only the year, I believe, that might have been wrong, not the actual day of the event.
Oh, I
And
see what
we
they're doing.
just-
They're not going back to back. I see. They're not
They're
going
not
back to
gonna go
back.
back.
It's
no.
gonna be a gap there, so the
October
6th was
6th
correct.
was the original event date. It was the year
Thank
only.
you.
We should have amended, just
All
for,
right.
just
So
so we're
we'll
not
go
all
back one
confused.
more time. If we don't mind, we'll change that back to the starting date or the original date of October 6, 2024. Do I have a
I'll
motion?
motion to make that.
Motion by Council Shaw, second by Council McGill. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? So we are now dealing with, again, October 6, 2024, with a rain date of October 27th. My apologies. Again, it's pending the promoter's permit. There are no further questions on this license. I will take a motion to approve. Motion by Counselor Shaw, second by Counselor McGill. All in favor to approve, say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, the license passes by a vote of 7-0. We're going down to the next item on our agenda. We have a private detective license renewal from Peter Sword. The clerk reports that everything is in order on this renewal, so if there's no discussion, I will take a motion to approve this license. Moved by Counselor Shaw, with second by Counselor Mativia. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The license passes by a vote of 7-0. We're going down to the next license. We have a kennel license. We have an application for a kennel license from Wheaton Way LLC, located at 9 Durbrook Way. If we do approve, it's pending final inspection by the animal control. Is Wheaton Way a representative here? Hi, welcome to the Cumberland Town Council. Thank you.
So, yes, my name is Tina Parry. I've been a hobby breeder for a little bit of time, and I have a big passion in animals, and I've always wanted to do this. So I said, now's the time. And so I breed soft-coated Wheaton Terriers and Poodles. They're very hypoallergenic dogs, and they're beautiful. They're very wonderful for families and homes. So, yes, so I'm waiting for I have a kennel inspection at 10:30 Friday morning with David Waycott and Ryan Thero.
Yep.
I spoke with both of them, so they're excited. So they've been up to my home before, and so I'm really, really excited.
Just a curiosity, are those dogs kind of barkers, or I'm just curious for
They're
neighbors?
they're
Okay.
not. So Wheaton Terriers are not high barkers at all.
Okay.
But if they are, please go look and see what's wrong.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
They
Usually,
are. They're beautiful dogs.
usually it's something good for
They are
you.
not high barkers at all.
Okay.
And
Anybody?
I live on agricultural land, so I sit very way back. And I did bring a diagram, so I didn't know if you needed to see it. or-
No, I think I'm
Yeah.
familiar with it. Everybody else is good? Any questions of the applicant? Hearing none, I will take a motion to approve the license. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
coming.
much. Thank you.
Motion by Counselor Shaw, second by Counselor McGill. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the license passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you again for coming. We're going to move on to old business. The first thing we have is ordinance for public hearing. We have 24-23, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance to add the Beagle Club overlay district and amend the zoning map for parcels identified as Assessors Plat 40, lots 5, 6, and 7, and 8, and 43 to be included within the Beagle Club overlay district. I'm going to open the public hearing at 8:27. Counselor Schmidt.
Thank you. On September 11th, the ordinance subcommittee met by a vote of 2-0. We recommend favorable approval to the full council. By way of a little background here, the Beagle Club has been a Cumberland institution for decades. I believe, it's my understanding, it was formed shortly after World War II, and they engaged primarily in the shooting sports. Their genesis predates our zoning ordinance, so I guess they would be considered a pre-existing legal non-conforming. By creation of this overlay this overlay district, if we approve this, we make these uses allowed by right, no longer pre-existing non-conforming. They're allowed by right in that zone.
Any questions? Is anybody from the Beagle Club here? Seeing none, but any further comments from the council? Anybody in the public would like to comment? Mr. Baudet, just come up and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Name's Michael Baudet, reside at 333 Nate Wolf Highway. Our property abuts the Beagle Club. I'm also vice president of the Cumberland Land Trust. Burlingame property abuts Beagle Club. Next year, my wife will be celebrating her 50th year in Cumberland. In that period of time, the Beagle Club has been exemplary neighbors for us. Now, it's kind of hard to say after 50 years, you have no problem with your neighbor. This is very nice to say.
It's a good neighbor.
And they share a passion that the land trust does to protect as much land in Cumberland as we can. You know, we're probably the fastest growing community in Rhode Island. So sharing that passion is nice. And plus, it's nice for my wife and myself because between our land and Cumberland Land Trust and Beagle Club, we got about 300 acres sitting there for us. So it's nice for me to walk my dog that whole property. Also, I've walked the Beagle Club area for many, many, many years. And it's nice to see how they maintain the property. It's very, very clean. The members of the Beagle Club are very respectful of their neighbors. And people ask me, don't you mind the shooting? And I said, well, I'd rather have some shooting than 50 houses next door to me. The cars going in and out. So I'm very, very happy to see that they obviously plan to stay there for a long period of time and then going to build a new club on here and utilize the old club. So I think they add to the flavor of our town. They add a lot to our town, make it another attraction. So I'm totally in support of the Cumberland Beagle Club staying there and developing the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Day, for coming down. Any other members of the public who would like to comment on ordinance 24-23?
Council
Seeing none in
President,
the cha-
we
seeing
have,
none-
go ahead.
Sandra?
Yep, we have someone on Zoom who'd like to speak.
Okay, yeah, that's, I was going to you right now, so you could just let them through.
President Kinch, this is Matt Alves, Vice President of the Cumberland Beagle Club. I can take any questions if you guys have any. Sorry for not attending the meeting.
No.
Swim class took precedence.
That's fine, Deb. Is there any questions for Mr. Alves? Looks like none, Deputy, so do you have anything to comment on, or we're good?
I'm good on my end. I appreciate you guys taking this under consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alves. All right, no other comments virtually, Madam Clerk?
No, there aren't.
Hearing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing at 8:31. Council, any last comments? If not, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve.
I got a motion by Councilor Schmidt. It is second by Councilors Shaw and Mativia. I'm gonna go to the roll call vote. Councilor Schmidt,
Yes.
Councilor Bolio,
Yes.
Councilor Mativia, Councilor Shaw.
Yes.
Councilor McGill,
Yes.
Councilor Brattle. Yes, the chair also votes yes, the license passes, or excuse me, the ordinance passes by a vote of 7-0. Next item on our agenda is an ordinance, it's for public hearing 24-24. We have an ordinance and amendment of the zoning ordinance relating to accessory structures and accessory dwelling units. Chairman Schmidt.
Yes, thank you. Also, at the September 11th meeting of the ordinance subcommittee, we took this up. We're moving it to the full council without a recommendation. Let me give you some background here. Two things. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we worked on accessory dwelling units here. And I think we did a really good job. There was a lot of input and we put in place what we thought was a fair product for our residents. Last year, if you recall, in November, we approved a series of updates to our zoning, which conformed to state law. There was a series of 14 bills that were passed by the General Assembly, and we were asked to update to keep consistent with those. This is a further one, which was passed at, I believe, the end of the last session. And I have serious issues with this ordinance. I just want to let you know that at the meeting where Councilor Bolio and myself, Mr. Mativia was unable to attend, the mayor was there, the solicitor was there, and the planning director was there. And I think that was it. Were you there?
Yes.
Mike, I'm not sure. The council president was there. What this ordinance is asking us to do is to approve as a matter of right an accessory dwelling unit on any R1 property that has more than 20,000 square feet. It removes the restriction of there being some sort of familial based relationship. So when I look at this as the state coming in, reaching into our zoning and saying, this is what we're going to do to make the housing situation better. And I find that to be egregious. I think it's really an overreach of the state. What it can do, in theory, is eliminate R1 zoning and make it all R2, unless you've got a lot that has less than 20,000 square feet. To give you an example, in my neighborhood, I believe almost every single lot on Windsong exceeds 20,000 square feet. Some of that is not buildable because it's wetland, but it would take the majority of those lots and make them all R2s. You could build an ADU, and let's call it what it is. It's an apartment. So you could build it within the structure, or you could build it in the available land, but you don't have to house it with a relative who needs assistance. You can rent it to whomever you want. And when you sell the property, it sells with that unit with it. I think this is way too much for the state to say that each municipality has to do this. I'm not sure what other municipalities have done, but I'd like you all to consider voting against this. And the solicitor will tell you the ramifications of that, because this is now state law. The state is just waiting for the 39 cities and towns to adopt this, and I'm not sure again who has and who hasn't. But I find this to be a little bit too much. I voted for the changes for the 14 laws that we did last November, but I can't support this. I'm not sure how y'all feel, but I think I'll start the conversation with a question to the solicitor. What happens if this does not pass?
Mayor, Mr. Chairman, can we get into that? Or I think we want to table this, right?
Well, you can get into it. It's before you. I know someone was thinking about tabling it. I don't know where that came from. So you can either have a conversation about it now, or you can table it and have a conversation about it another time. It's totally up to you.
Before we go on, I am going to put the sub A in. I want to get that in there. I think we have an A for this. So,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
to start,
sorry, yes,
yeah.
we do.
yeah, I'm gonna take a motion to replace 24-24 with 24-24A. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Counselor Schmidt, second by Counselor Bolio. All in favor to replace, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is amended by a vote of 7-0, and we are now dealing with 24-24A. Which, Mayor, did you want to have say?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, as those who were in attendance that evening, I'm pretty much in agreement with what Councilman Schmidt had to say earlier. And so, you know, for me, I would just like to understand the ramifications of the denial. And that's why I would be asking for, you know, a tabling this evening. But on principle, I'm pretty much in agreement with Councilman Schmidt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So if no council members have an issue, do you want to continue this discussion and we still table it, or do you?
Well, here's what I'd like to do. If we can just start that discussion, I just want to see what the answer to that question is. And I don't have an issue with tabling this. However, who wants to table?
The mayor.
The mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, I would just ask that it be tabled to a meeting that I will definitely be at, which is only the next 2 meetings, because my term will expire, I won't be here. I want to go on record with my vote.
So the 16th, are you available?
Of October?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Because that's the next meeting. I think we should have the answer by then, Mayor. Okay, good.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna hold off on all discussion.
We'll hold off unless as the solicitor said, you can discuss it, but if you just want to
Yeah,
wait till
no,
it's
that's
fresh.
fine, that's fine.
Okay.
It also gives you all an opportunity to further review this and look at things that are allowed by right.
Mr. Mativi.
Do you know the ramifications now that we can start thinking about it? Like, why are we waiting for the ramifications? Unless you don't know.
Well, so this has not been tested by a court. I have my own interpretation of how, you know, it would be interpreted. But and I'm sure other lawyers are gonna, that, I always say, that's why we all have jobs, because it's not black and white. I'm taking the position that our existing ordinance is a valid ordinance unless, unless there are items in the new statute that would kind of supersede. So if you don't pass this, that's my interpretation. I'm not the zoning official. So the zoning official would probably seek my advice, but we would talk about it, and it would be his determination as to how to interpret this. So when you talk about ramifications, it is not black and white. I drafted this because I wanted to address the new state law. But that's how I'm interpreting it. Whatever is in your ordinance now, as long as it's not inconsistent with the new state law, that's how I interpret it. And I will be advising staff in that manner.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yeah, I think, not to get like a hard, fast answer, as the solicitor said, the only reason that I would need 2 weeks is, would be more of a comfort level, because if you were to ask me tonight and you had to make a decision tonight, I would ask you to vote against it. So but for 2 weeks, just to, increase my comfort level for that recommendation, that's all I would ask for. But if it was so desired this evening, I would not be protesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds reasonable enough. There's no complaint. Yeah. Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add the fact that I feel the same sentiment with the mayor, because there's a lot, I'd rather know the bigger picture ramifications down the road with something so new. Taking the extra 2 weeks, and I wasn't able to attend the meeting on this, but having the sidebar discussion here with the Councilor McGill, like I'm in my head, it's like the overloading on streets, the overloading on schools, the overloading on public safety infrastructure. If residents now have the freedom to put apartments for apartment's sake, it's not ideally what the goal was, which we established a very nice ordinance to help family members. And just recently speaking to someone this week who I never met and spoke to before, is concerned about, ADUs because she wants to take care of, or they want to take care of their mother and father and build something on their house. And so just understanding this a little bit further, I don't think is a bad idea. Like I said, I would be in the same thing. If we had to make a thing today, I would vote no, because I'd rather do that and then move on. But I think the 2 weeks I'll be in favor of.
Yeah, no, it's always good to take a little time to reflect. I can't see a scenario where I would change my vote, as you probably have guessed. But that conversation you had with your neighbor or your constituent is exactly what our ADU ordinance was for, to address that exact situation. And I don't think any one of us here would have an issue with that. But yeah, 2 weeks, is there anybody that you'd like to hear from, the zoning official? Or do you think the solicitor is?
Well,
think it's
personally,
the
I was going
solicitor.
to reach out on my own, but if we can also have these individuals here in the chambers, then that makes sense too. But I
think perhaps the zoning official is a good idea, since
Yes.
that person will be the decider, if you will.
because it also plays on the like going to the solicitor too, like there's interpretations, right? There's circumstances that maybe as individuals of us sitting up here, we can bestow upon the zoning official, so we can get a better picture on a layman's term of if my neighbor wants to do X, Y, Z, will she be able to do it without this or do it with this, or just get simple sort of circumstantial answers.
Right, and perhaps
better
the zoning
understand.
official can answer. It's not, if you have a 20,000 square foot lot, you still are subject to setbacks and things like that.
Right.
And those are addressed in this ordinance. So you might just, I know it's a difficult ordinance. There's been a lot of changes to it. So yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
But
Mr. President, I just want to, to Councilman Shaw's comments, you do have a very generous ADU ordinance right now. This goes much further. The proposed ordinance because of the new state law.
Right, and I agree with you, and I think that we're doing right by the people of Cumberland by doing it, and if we were a town that did not have an ADU sort of thing, we'd be in a whole different type of discussion here. And I'd be okay with voting no against this because we have that existing ADU. But because it's before us, because it's state law, I just think it's nice just to ask some simple questions before we ultimately make that final determination.
that's fine. And to be fair, I don't see it attached to our packet here, but there are perhaps 12 changes to the zoning ordinance. And some of them are discretionary and some of them are required by the new state law. The discretionary ones clear up some language and they're not material to the argument that I'm trying to make here today. So I don't know if someone can ask Glenn Medica if he could provide that very helpful list here. It's a 1-page. And we got it at the ordinance subcommittee, but I don't see it here. So that being said, if everyone's all set, then I would make a motion to table this and, okay.
I have a motion.
No, we've got.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one
Yeah,
comment,
Ms. Polio.
because I think once you make a motion to table it, there's no further discussion. So as it stands today, I think the legislative changes passed by the General Assembly have a significant impact on Cumberland. It has as Councilor Shaw noted, has a significant impact on all of our resources. And so while trying to understand, we need to protect the town and provide boundaries and guidelines, which is what I think the intent of this revised ordinance is. I think the bigger problem is this will have a significant impact on Cumberland. And I'd like to understand the position of the League of Cities and Towns, because I do think that matters, and they likely are facilitating, hopefully, some discussion with other communities as to how this is managed, or whether there's any proposal to request revision of the state law.
Mr. President, and to that, I was going to mention, you could draft a resolution to be distributed to the General Assembly with your concerns. You see them all the time from other communities. You have the ability to do that. We could just send it off to the delegation and to the leaders of the, General Assembly.
That's a good reminder. Thank you. We can work on that.
Would that allow, pardon me, would that allow us, because that would not be submitted until January at this point, right?
Well, you'd vote on it,
Send it in, but it'll sit.
Right, but
Yeah.
but they'd be thinking about it.
So in the meantime, they won't be able to build these? I mean,
So
Yeah.
again,
We could just
it's an
curb it.
interpretation to
Yeah.
be made right now because the state law is effective.
Yeah.
And this ordinance, our current ordinance is effective. So we have to review both and decide
Okay.
what the interpretation should be.
all right, so that's definitely 2 weeks. Any other comments or questions?
No, thank you.
Oh, wait, we will take a motion to table 24-24A.
Motion table 16th.
Motion
Second.
to table by Council Schmidt is second by Council Bolio. All in favor to table to 10-16, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ordinance is tabled by a vote of 7-0. We're going down to now new business. We have resolution 2488, a resolution to approve payment to Tasco Automotive Group for emergency work done on a 2019 Ram 4500 in the amount not to exceed $10,562.35. Welcome, Chief.
Good evening. So this resolution pertains to emergency engine repairs that were performed last month on one of our prior was a frontline ambulance, moved to reserve status. And it went into limp mode, had to be towed. required the turbo to be replaced amongst a few other odds and ends in the engine. So that's why this is for you now for the.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief on this emergency repair? Thank you so much, sir.
I just
With
got
no-
one for
So,
one for the
I'm sorry.
mayor.
Council Bradley.
After this repair, what do we have left in that line item for repairs? Is it another 10,000?
I'll bring out the fiscal note, but my recollection is 15 something, let me see.
10.5, I believe the fiscal note is saying.
The fiscal notes are, no, yeah, 10/5/31, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. And again, thank you, Chief. With no other further comment or discussion from the council, I'll take a motion to approve resolution 2488. So moved by Councilor Shaw. Do we have a second? Second by Councilor Mativia. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes by a vote of 7-0. Next item on our agenda, we have Resolution 2489. Resolution 2489 is a resolution authorizing Mayor Jeffrey J. Mutter and the Town Council President Michael L. Kinch to execute a collective bargaining agreement with the IAFF, AFL-CIO, Local 2725. Mayor Mutter.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. This is for our EMS department here in town. The highlights of this agreement would be to remove the deputy chief from the bargaining unit. There's some stipends for accreditation similar to the police department, some changes in the promotional, how we promote within the department, and it represents a 4% for each of the 3 years, which is in keeping with our closest comp. I do want to remind that it's in keeping with that comp at our, with no disrespect to others, but our department is a fully paramedic department. So we're appreciative of the negotiations and the agreement in front of you, and would ask you to act favorably upon Resolution 24-89. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions of the mayor on this resolution? Mr. Bradley.
Mayor, you said the deputy chief is now out of the union per this contract, or was that prior?
Out of the union. Well, there was a was it an MOA or, there was other times where it came out and then went back in. It's out.
Back in now?
It's out now.
It's out? So with him being out of the union, is he able to ride the truck at all?
No. Not,
Unless you want.
not to my knowledge, I don't believe so. No.
Fine, good. All right. If there is no further discussion on this, I will take a motion to approve the contract. So moved by Councilor Shaw, second by Councilor Mativia and McGill. All in favor to approve the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution 2489 passes by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is public comment. Would anybody in the chamber like to address the council? Sir, please come up and state your name and address for the record. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. Ron Colstrom, 7 Old Forge. Just a couple things on the piping stuff, right? I think you guys heard a little bit about that. 3 things. One, I think one of the things they talked about was figuring out what the pressure looks like, figuring out a leak before it actually happens, right? There are pressure indicators that you can get. I've been doing a lot of due diligence on this just from constituents just reaching out to me on behalf of kind of their issues from a water pressure or water going out standpoint. So from a water pressure standpoint, there are different elements that can be on these pipes and in the system that can let the town know of breaks before the people do, right? The second one I would say is that I think what they said in the water department said was that the issues are more of the compacting about this fill, right? On top of these pipes, and the PVC is breaking. So my question is, one, there's a possibility, or they should be able to go back and say, all right, who worked on these leaks before, right? Or who put these pipes in? whether it was DOT, whether it was Cumberland Water Department, whether it was any other contractor that did this, and make sure that the fill and the stuff that they're doing that made this stuff happen isn't being done again, right? It's not being done in the future, so we're not having these problems. And I guess the third one would be that these long stretches of leaks. There's a technology out there in the water. I wish they would have stayed just so we could kind of address this a little bit, but there's a pipe in place, right? And I don't know how much you guys know about this, but basically what it is you're using the existing PVC or the existing iron or cast iron or steel, whatever you want to call it, and they're putting a liner through it, right? They talked about liners. Now, it's not going to work for some of the Ys and some of the other things that they talked about, but there's technology out there, and I've looked into this, and I'm not a piping expert by any means, but there's technology that you can use this pipe in place so you're not ripping up hundreds of feet or thousands of feet of road, especially Minden Road, Diamond Hill, Nate Whipple. So I think our water department, and I think Public Works need to look a little bit more from a technology standpoint, from the best practices to see what other communities are doing, right? To strengthen, even if it's to strengthen these existing PVC pipes to make them a little stronger, knowing that there's these fill and these rollers that are coming are going to compact them. We need to look at that because I think the biggest problem is one, obviously the water leaks and the lack of pressure and brown water and losing water for days, but it's also the inconvenience of people on Minden Road that have to already deal with the traffic and the crap roadway and the bumps and the potholes. And now they have to be inconvenienced by, digging it up for days. So that's all I'll say. I think from a proactive standpoint, I think from a master plan, I like how he said that, they have a list of old to new. I think we need to prioritize that and see what we can do as far as, working with an overall budget and getting that into effect. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Anybody else in the chamber? Sir, please step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Just the Assistant Superintendent of the Water Department, Bobby Ray. So just not everybody left, I'm still here. So, just to comment on the 3 points that he had mentioned. I assume one of the things you were mentioning about the pressure indicators, probably smart hydrants, pressure indicators like that would allow us to identify leaks. Those do exist. We are knowledgeable of those technologies, and we are evaluating placing some of these in place. When we do some of these line upgrades in the Berkeley area, Ashton area, those are some of the areas of the highest pressure in town. So pressure losses in those areas would be indicative of problems elsewhere in those areas. Those can be strategically placed around town, to that gentleman's credit, to his point, to help us identify problems, not just with breaks, with changing conditions. You can find just all litany of problems that you can find with those things, and they're very good tools. We have standard hydrants in town right now with no pressure monitoring whatsoever. Pressure monitoring that we do have is mainly done by our tanks, which all supply pressure to the town hydraulically. And we have pressure monitors at our booster stations as well, which supply pressure around town. So the pressure is monitored in town, but there are additional opportunities, to his point, to be able to do so. We are evaluating putting those in as we upgrade those areas. The second point that you made, remind me? The fill.
Figuring out who did what and
Yes.
why, and make sure that others did.
Yes, so we do have staff that monitors current construction projects. Director Duarte mentioned that, from 50, 60 years ago, that we wouldn't really be able to go after any contractors that would have done anything at this point. There's no way to verify that, and it's pretty solid to say that the condition in which they buried it in is the same condition in which it was dug up in, but over 45, 50 years, there's really not much we can say as far as for sure that's the way it was put in. Nobody has pictures or any proof of anything like that. So, but we do have a group of very talented, qualified water operators that we have in town that do inspect the jobs that we are doing currently. And the third point that we made. Pipe in place, the liners. Like Director Duarte mentioned, we are looking into lining PVC pipe as a structural integrity improvement. The problem that we run into on Mendon Road is a external force that can compromise the outside of a pipe and could just as easily compromise the inside of a liner after compromising the outside. So while piping, it would improve our structural integrity through, if that's our problem, once again, like Director Duarte mentioned, that's a newer section of pipe. The old AC mains that are numbers of decades old, the cast iron mains, those are the ones that we would prioritize with a lining program over the PVC, just based on the age and the potential benefit to them, because it's not going to be as effective against external force as it would from internal corrosion of drinking water, because that does have a corrosive effect on the inside of the pipe as well, which is usually what these structural liners are meant to address, not just external forces. And to the point that they had about the construction potentially being an inflection point for some of these issues coming up, I would just like to highlight that I would characterize the construction being done on Mendon Road or Shirley Drive, like they mentioned, as more of a contributing factor than a causing factor. They're contributing to the age, current condition, and current struggles that our infrastructure faces before they even get there. And there's nothing that any contractor I've ever seen do in town that I would characterize as irresponsible or that should lead to a problem with our infrastructure. So while paving or compaction or vibration could cause an issue, it's not the sole cause. There's age, there's wear, and there's improper initial bedding that I think we've seen. So just to comment on those three things from a water department's perspective.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, is anybody joining us virtually?
Yes, there is one person wishing to speak.
Put him or her through.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Welcome to the Cumberland Town Council. Could you just state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Ted Vecchio, 584 Bound Road, Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Just on a little bit of a lighter note, my wife and owner of Dance Theater of Rhode Island was nominated for top 5 director in the country with the Star Dance Alliance, which is an amazing accomplishment without getting too much into the dance world. But I just wanted to let the council know that, you know, the studio has been in Cumberland for 35 of its 36 years, and she's almost reached the top of the pinnacle. So just a little bit, try to end the meeting on a good note.
Thank you, Mr. Vecchio. It's very good to know, and please pass on our congratulations to your wife.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Anyone else, Madam Clerk?
No, that's it.
Okay, I'm going to go to our next item on our agenda is adjournment.
Mr. President?
Yes. Oh, excuse me. Councilor Shaw.
Thank you. Just because it wasn't stated at the beginning of the meeting, I just wanted to sort of officially say that the blue ribbon ceremony that myself, Council President, Councilwoman Bolio, the mayor was able to attend at Garvin was an awesome event. The children were so excited. I mean, it's just a nice thing to see. I think this was our 3rd blue ribbon school in as little as 10 years that I've been on the council that we've been to celebrate. And, you know, I think a lot, these types of events just goes to show that the efforts that have been put in throughout these past years are really paying off. Whether it be monetary, whether it be time, the people, the personnel, that we're putting people in the right places. It's nice to see stuff like this come our way. And for those that weren't at the event, out of, I think it was 156,000 schools, 365 schools are picked, which is only 0.3% that you get in. And when you look at that number, it's like little Rhode Island is sharing a little piece of that pie. And it was a great time. So congratulations to the Garvin
Thank you for bringing that up, Counselor. Hearing no other comments, I will take a motion to adjourn at 9:04 PM. So moved by Counselor Short, second by Counselor McGill. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. Any opposed? Town council is adjourned at 9:04. Thank you, everyone.